Good. Perfect. So welcome everybody. Good to be back. This is See Through. This is our podcast where we all kind of get more acquainted with this Bhakti yoga tradition, Bhakti as spirituality, and where we kind of help each other on this spiritual path, figure out how to become a little bit more authentic, figure out how to comfort each other through this spiritual journey. Aha, perfect. And we figure out how to help each other along the way. So this is See Through, and we've been journeying through Krishna book, which is a book all about pastimes and adventures of the Supreme Person, who I like to call my Supreme Bestie, because from the time I was little, I heard Krishna or God is your best friend. I took it literally. And I think that there are a lot of things in spirituality that we should take literally. This is one of them. So these are all the adventures of our best friend, our extreme supreme well-wisher. And I figured the first step on our path to spirituality is reconnecting our relationship with our supreme person. But if we have no idea what that supreme person is like, it's like trying to start a relationship, but forever going on blind dates. Right? You never really get too deep into who the person is or how they interact or what their mannerisms are, what they like and don't like. And you never really get so deeply into who this person is. So I thought, why not explore our supreme best friend, and why not do it together? So I wanted this Govinda prayer ministry to be a place where we could talk about the things that come up in bhakti, the things that come up that confuse us or empower us, the things that make us better and happy, as well as the things that tend to make the mind a little bit foggy and where we feel like we're held back. So just before we dive into the introduction, where we have been exploring this foundation of getting to know Krishna, yesterday was a very special day called Vasant Panchami. And I thought, why not spend a few minutes talking about what that actually is? We hear a lot of terms within Bhakti Yoga, but we can find ourselves being a little bit confused with all the terms, especially if you are not native to the subcontinent of India. So Vasant Panchami, this Vedic calendar, runs on lunar movements. So, right, we're judging by the movements of the moon now. So Panchami means the fifth day in a lunar cycle, either waning or waxing. Right now, we are waxing, moving towards a full moon. So this Panchami, as we move toward this waxing full moon in the month of what is called Magh, or the month of Lord Madhava, and they all the months have names, and with Vedic spirituality, all the months have presiding deities. So even months do worship. Go figure. So even the months have these presiding deities, and all of them are manifestations of Sri Krishna, which I think is pretty cool. So the presiding deity for the month of Magh is Madhava. The next month, which we'll move into, and I'll let you know when that happens, is the month of Falgun. And the month of Falgun, the presiding deity is Lord Govinda. So we can always tell, which would be my favorite month out of a year. I mean, so what's exciting is this Vasant Panchami, this fifth day, marks the beginning of spring. Now, not worldwide, as I, glance outside my window. It is not at all spring-like. But in India, this marks the end of their winter months, which are quite short, and the beginning of this springtime. And it's not exactly like a hard cutoff. It's like one day it's winter, the next day it's full on spring. It'll still take a couple of days, but it goes very quickly, very quickly. I was in India one year during Valentine's Day, and I remember thinking, this is so unfair. It was like 80 degrees. It was beautiful outside. It was like sunny and hot and humid. It's like just the way I like it. I really like tropical weather. And I just remember thinking, this is not at all what New York is like right now. So this Vasant Panchami marks this presence of spring, and Vasant means the spring season. And so everyone, what do they do in India when anything happens? They have a celebration and a prayer. So it also marks the beginning of Saraswati Puja. So the goddess Saraswati is the goddess of learning, music, knowledge, science, and all of the best things. She rules over speech. So all of those things that if we wish we could gain clarity on certain subjects, if we wish that we could understand things, this is the goddess Saraswati. She governs all of that. She is the consort of Lord Brahma, who is a creator that we've been speaking about in previous episodes. And they honor her on the day of Vasant Panchami. So it's a good day. Vasant Panchami is one of those days that is so auspicious that it doesn't need anything else to boost its auspiciousness. So if you've ever been to an Indian astrologer, you have auspicious days, but you also have auspicious times, right? So it's like, okay, there's this particular day, which is a really good day for doing things or beginning things or setting intentions. But then they also give you, but there's a specific window of time, like between 10 a.m. and 12 p.m. or something, right? And every day will have those auspicious times. But Vasant Panchami is one of those days where any time is auspicious. So you'll find that a lot of people get married on the day of Vasant Panchami. So you see a lot of people on the day of Vasant Panchami, is a lot of anniversaries. Like everybody's a happy anniversary, because it's a great day to begin something that you want to last with clarity, with compassion, with auspiciousness. It brings all of the best things into your life and gives it great longevity. So you see a lot of people get married on Vasant Panchami. A lot of people will offer, like you'll see, like there'll be altars to the goddess Saraswati, and there'll be books, instruments, all the creativity and all the projects that you want to get involved with. She's able to give unlimited blessings to those. Now, one question is like, but wouldn't a supreme divine being want to give blessings on any day? Yeah, that's true. And she does. She gives blessings any day. Any time that you are calling on these divine beings, they're giving you their blessings and their assistance. But there are some days that are like supercharged. You can power up. And Basant Panchami is one of those days. And because yellow is often the color of goddess Saraswati, a lot of the deities you'll see within India and around the world, they put them in bright yellow colors. It's also the color of spring. They put them in bright yellow colors, and they make a big to do. So the change of seasons is a big deal. In fact, what I really like about India is everything's a big deal. And what we'll see within Vrindavan, a little village town within India, but this is where Krishna spends his formative childhood years. So what we'll see within Vrindavan is everything and anything brings about a festival. Child is born, festival. Seasons change, festival. Did it rain for the first time? Festival. Did it rain for the last time in the season? Festival. Did your child turn over? Festival. Like there's a festival for everything. Like, we milked the cows and there was a lot of milk. Festival. For no, any time is a good time. And I kind of want to imbibe this in my life. I want to bring that into my life, this idea of celebrating everything. And on the basis of what? Is it just simply on the basis of, sometimes you think of people who are so simplistic and able to find joy in anything. They're like, oh yeah, they're just simple natured village people. Why is that? Why do we give such less importance to people who have found a way to celebrate everything? Why are they considered those people who are simple or less than? I kind of want to bring that more into my life. I want to make every moment a reason and a cause for celebration, because there's divine mercy inherent in every single moment. It's more about attuning myself to find that divine mercy. Because if I don't find a reason to celebrate, I will find a reason to complain. and I don't need to give myself any more reasons to complain. I can always find something to complain about. It's too cold, it's too gray, the winter is too long, the spring is too short, whatever, like anything. The shirt is too scratchy. Oh, I tied my bandana too tight, but now it's too loose. But oh, now it's like not perfect. Oh, I got it perfect. And then it fell off. Like, I can always find a reason to complain or something that is not going right, something that feels uncomfortable about life. But how often am I giving myself the opportunity to rejoice at every moment because I'm finding divine mercy, because I'm finding grace, because I'm finding compassion, because I'm finding instances to give compassion. So just as Vasant Panchami was a day of celebration, I want to find ways to make every day a day of celebration. If it's Monday and I've been dreading Mondays my whole life, how can I flip this around so that I find a reason to rejoice on Mondays now? Because Monday, as the start of the week, is a new opportunity. In fact, each day is a new opportunity. The fact that we've woken up and we can be here together is cause for celebration. This is a moment in life where I want to say that Krishna's mercy is here. The compassion and love and grace of my supreme friend is right here, right now. And it helps me live more in the moment, helps me find a way to be present instead of thinking and looking for, the next thing that will make me happy or the next thing that will drive away this distress. We spend so much of our lives trying to avoid distress and chase happiness that we find very little time for actually living in the grace and in the mercy and in the miracles that are happening in the present moment. So I want to find more ways to do that. I want to let Vasant Panchami be an example for me. This wonderful, beautiful day where everything is auspicious. How can I bring the mood of that day into my everyday life, where everything in my everyday life can be auspicious? Being here with all of you is auspicious. Taking an opportunity to open up Krishna book and read a few lines about Krishna is auspicious. Doing it on any given day marks that day as an auspicious day worthy of celebration. So that's going to be my challenge for the next weeks, days, months. I kind of want to make it a habit. And Srila Prabhupada wisely said once that habit means practice. And so we practice. And he was speaking about spiritual habits and how we make these spiritual habits a part of our reality and a part of our everyday. He was always saying practice. It's a spiritual practice, not a spiritual perfect, which means that perfection and that goal of perfection, what does that look like? Now it simply looks like we've made an effort. We've made a simple endeavor. This is the path of perfection, according to Sri Krishna, is that we just make an endeavor to get a little bit closer to our own nature as souls and our relationship with our supreme friend. That's perfection. Now it's no longer, you've reached perfection when you've got a job that pays you exorbitant amounts of money and you can buy God's favor. You can't. You could have all the money in the world, but you can't buy God's favor. But we will see and we'll understand that our supreme friend can be purchased, but it's only with love. That's God's currency. He doesn't care for any of your material stuff. If you give it, that's great. But what he really cares about is what goes with this stuff. That has to be accompanied by big emotion, or at least a little emotion, some kind of emotion. I was talking with one of my nephews yesterday, and I was saying, it's so interesting when we decide that we want to put ourselves out there and express our affection to somebody, and we're unsure about them. And we, you give that the little signal, and you consider, like, okay, I'm putting myself out there. And inside, it's a really huge deal. But externally, all we've really done is sent maybe a 2-line message. We've shown some interest in somebody romantically, even in a friendship. And then when you get the response back, and not only does it seem like the person is not reciprocating those romantic feelings, but it almost feels like they feel nothing for you at all. And I was saying to him, I was like, that almost feels worse. It's like it would almost be better if at least you felt some dislike. Feel something, feel anything, but feel something. It feels almost worse when the person's just like apathetic, like, oh, well, you're here, I guess. Okay, fine. So, and then, that always makes me think about my relationship with my supreme person. How have I been treating that person? Have I been praying, but not backing it up with my emotions? Have I been praying and it's all about me? And not once do I ever consider that I'm talking to someone, right? This prayer is often a conversation for me. And I feel like that conversation happens with divinity. So if I'm praying and I'm speaking about all the things that I need help with, and absolutely that occurs, we need that guidance. But have I ever stopped to think, okay, but what does my friend like? Because my friend's going to reciprocate with those prayers. And when my friend reciprocates, that's an offer of love, right? You get an offer of divine love. And then we're kind of indifferent to the whole thing. Oh, yeah, thanks. Thanks. You did a good one. Or worse, when our prayers are answered, we don't even say thank you because we're so caught up in, look what I did. I really handled that well. It's a good time for me. So, we can be the toxic ones in the relationship, the ones who are showing that indifference. So Krishna works on the currency of love. And my mom always used to say, and usually when I was feeling prickly about a situation, something would happen and I'd feel like, oh, why did this person do that? And I'd want to lash back out. I'd want to react really harshly. And my mom would say, you should remember that love is your currency and you can afford to be generous. Which I never liked because of when she used it. Right? I was always kind of like gristling against it because of when she would say it, which is, usually when I'm not really feeling like being so loving at the moment. But really what she was saying is, you have such a wealth of love. You are being shown love every single day. And the difference is that you're conscious of it. Lots of people are being shown love and they're not even conscious of it. So inside, they're just feeling alone, just feeling this lacking. Some of us, those of us who are gathered here today, we're constantly being shown love. Love is our currency. And we are so abundantly wealthy with it. We can afford to be generous, which goes so deep. It just means that even if you showed compassion or just a little bit of understanding or love to this person who has rubbed you the wrong way or said the wrong thing, sometimes their actions speak more about them feeling a lack of love rather than how they feel about you. And that's been such a hard lesson for me to learn, is that a lot of times the ways that people are acting toward you has nothing to do with you and everything to do with them. And sometimes nothing you can say or do will be able to change that. But if we view it as a cry for love or an opportunity to show love, then we get more spiritually and divinely aligned. And I've been kind of thinking about that in a lot of my interactions. How can I give or show love in this situation? How can I conversely receive love in this situation? Because that's a big one. I consider myself a giver. I can give, 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 give. But am I able to actually open up and like receive the things? It goes two ways, right? And we've got to allow that love to flow. So it has to be give and take. So how can I give love in a situation? How can I receive love in a situation? How can I show love in a situation? Which goes hand in hand with, can I find Govinda in this situation? Can I find Krishna and Krishna's mercy in any situation? Even if that means the way I show love is by distancing myself from a situation or a certain person. If I can really understand that this person's call for love is a little bit more than I can handle, it's too big for me. Sometimes the best way to show love is to say, I have to know when to step back. I have to know what my boundaries are. And I have to know when to put it into Krishna's hands. So when we find ourselves in problematic situations, we can look at everybody as a soul dealing with life stuff, just like we are. And we can also understand that we don't have to be doormats. We don't have to just sit and endure abuse or mental anguish and anxiety. And we can know that even if the best thing we can do for somebody is prayer, that is the best thing that can be done. We shouldn't think that prayer is something small, like, oh, I prayed and what does that do? We should be praying with that faith behind it, with that real understanding behind it, that I have an in with my spiritual friend. Okay? I have contacts. I have the inside track to our spiritual friend. But we all do. We have that inside track. We should be using it. There's one line in the Bhagavad Gita, and Krishna says that devotees they will perform devotional service by our dependence on him. And that was big for me, because you often hear, and if you've read anything within Bhakti and anything specifically by Srila Prabhupada, you may have come across a line where Prabhupada will say, a pure devotee never asks for anything. Right? Pure devotees don't need anything for themselves. And so then you wind up thinking, well, then what about all the things going through my mind? Like, what about all the anguish and the turmoil that I feel inside? Do I not ask for guidance or help on that? But Krishna himself also says that his people show their devotional service and their love for him through their dependence, which means that we should not think that we should handle everything alone. We do not have to handle everything alone. That is absolutely not at all required. What's required now is for us to perform devotional service, which is what? Like, what is this idea of devotional service? It's what we do for the Supreme Person that we have a relationship with devotion. What we devote ourselves to, what we give ourselves to, how we show our worship from the heart. And we can do that, which is a very spiritual, esoteric thing, just by depending on the Supreme Person. Well, that's something I can do every day. I have no choice. I have to depend on my Supreme Friend. I can't make it by myself. That's a devotional service I can do. And it gave me such heart. It made me feel so comforted that even though it may seem as though the pure devotees don't ask for anything, they are also always dependent on the Supreme Person. So simultaneously, they understand their position, which is, this life thing is bigger than me. And I know somebody who's bigger than me. I can't handle this whole life thing on my own, but I have an in with my friend. And my friend can and will help me. That's one of the crest jewels of the qualities of devotees. So, according to labels, you may not think of yourself as a Krishna devotee. But that just means what's in here? What's in here? Rather than the external labels and what comes with all of that, what's in here? If there's a yearning to know our supreme friend and a desire to reestablish that connection with our supreme friend, for Krishna, you're a devotee. So when we think about devotees, they have all of these wonderful qualities, but one of the crest jewels of the qualities of devotees is their acknowledgement and their complete dependence on Krishna. Not just that, right? So the acknowledgement and complete dependence on Krishna, but also the faith and the understanding that Krishna will help. That if I ask my friend will help. And that's why they say that pure devotees don't just ask for anything, because they understand, if I ask my friend for this, then my friend will help me. So I don't want to just frivolously go and squander these different opportunities that I get to speak with my friend. I don't simply just want to say, oh, I'll just ask for all the frivolous things that don't even mean anything in my life. I want to ask for those meaningful things. I want to ask for those things that are going to enrich my life. And those come from here. Those things go a lot deeper. And I had a conversation recently with a friend. We do a podcast, which is Journey to Joy from Kirtan London. So if you are on YouTube, you can search Kirtan London, and there are several episodes of this Journey to Joy podcast where we speak about Bhagavad Gita. And in speaking with one of my friends on that Journey to Joy podcast, we were talking about this idea of desires, prayers, and all of the above. What happens with all of them? Because of course, the world runs on money and abundance, and we need it. Do we think that our friend actually won't give it to us? We should know that our friend will. But what is it that we actually need? I always want to ask myself the deeper question. What is it that I'm actually yearning for? If it's money, am I actually yearning for money, or am I yearning for enough abundance to help people? Because that changes our desires, that changes our prayers, and it changes what we ask for. So then when I go to my friend, I'm not simply asking, oh Lord, give me $1 million and a new Mustang convertible. I'm asking for something else. What I'm asking for is, oh, my friend, use me in your service. You know, this world works with this exchange of abundance. Give me all of the resources that I need. Give me the abundance that I need in order to help your people reconnect. So much deeper than just saying, Lord, give me $1 million and I'll give you your 10% cut. Right? The relationship goes deeper when we're not looking at God as our supreme stockbroker. Right? Like you just make a transaction and you go on about your business. Now God is our business. Right? This idea of reconnecting, this journey toward reconnecting and reestablishing our relationship with our supreme person becomes our life's business. This becomes what we spend our time on. This becomes our life's legacy. So the $1 million is not always about the $1 million. The things that we struggle with, even if, and I've, caught myself, like, even if, we think, oh, I want a relationship, or I want this partner or that partner. What is it that we're really looking for? Is it that specific person? Examine the qualities, and those qualities will tell you a little bit about what we're looking for. So if it's a relationship, if it's a partner, but what is it that we're looking for? We're yearning for connection. We're yearning for our spiritual partners. We're yearning for those people who can balance us. We're yearning for spaces that we can be held. We're yearning for times when we don't have to feel like we're being so strong and on our own. The desires that we have go deeper than the surface sentences of what we say. And it really behooves us to start looking deeper at what's beneath those desires and putting those into our prayers, because that will give us the fulfillment. When our Supreme Friend reciprocates with those deeper desires, we get a greater sense of fulfillment, much greater than anything that we could have asked for. Because honestly, when we think about the plans for our lives, our view is so narrow, so tunneled. We think it will be like this. I will meet this person, and then this person will be like this, and then they'll look like this, and then I'll have a house that'll look like this, and I'll have 2 cars that'll look like that, and then my job will look like this. But then what happens when it doesn't happen? We feel so unfulfilled that it drives us into the darkest regions of depression. Our minds get the better of us, and they start telling us it doesn't look exactly like you thought you planned, so now you failed. When we go deeper than just the surface ideas of desires, when we get down to what we are really yearning for, then we start to release the idea of exactly what it must look like. We begin to put that section into divine hands. I don't know what it's supposed to look like. I don't know exactly how it's supposed to manifest, but oh my dear friend, we are yearning for. Insert the deepest desires of your heart and soul. So Sachinandan Maharaj, if you don't know him, he's wonderful, wonderful German Swami man. And he's just like a ray of sunshine. Anything he says, anything he does, kind of just brings joy into my day. I've watched videos of him speaking without the sound on, and just him speaking. I find myself smiling, like, oh, so nice. And so he's often saying that we should deepen our relationship with our Supreme Person. Get deep. And in order for us to deepen our relationship with our Supreme Person, we have to get deep and clear on what we need. We have to get deep with ourselves as well. So this relationship is a two-way street, and we should look at it as such. But if we do the work, even though it's uncomfortable, even though it may be a little bit sketchy at times, and we may not know exactly what we're doing, if we actually do the work of getting deep with ourselves and with our Supreme Person, the reciprocation that comes from our Divine Person is above and beyond anything we could have imagined. Krishna is but a mirror. He says, I'll reciprocate. I'll simply reflect what it is that you've prayed for. If you pray just for the surface desires, Krishna's mercy will reflect that, but it'll be flickering. It won't feel so grounded. It won't feel stable or permanent or anything. It might give some satisfaction. Of course it will, because it's God's mercy. But that satisfaction is then subject to the terms and conditions of this material world app that we're all wandering through. And those terms and conditions, many of us have never read them. Like, we never really looked deeply into what those terms are, right? It's a lot of fine print. We're like, agree. Let's go on the journey. No problem. But once we start deepening our relationship with Krishna, then really we get a reciprocation that is way deep. You start seeing those synchronicities where you're like, wait, I think the universe knows me, guys. Of course it does. Of course the universe knows you. It is none other than a manifestation of our Supreme Friend. And once we get really deep with that Supreme Friend, that Supreme Person, it's like you get the overhead of the government, right? Like, big governmental body. And if somebody were to say, look, if you have a problem, just tell the government. It's like, what's that mean? What does that mean, tell the government? Do I tell a particular person? Any particular government? Like, do I reach out to all the governments of the world? Do we form a United Nations of the government? Like, what do I do? So sometimes when I hear about the idea of the universe, that sounds like, if you have a problem, just write the government. That's the government to handle. And sometimes that concept seems so broad that I'm like, but who do I ask? Who do I tell about my specific problem? And how do I know that that person in the government is going to hear me? Then we get a little bit more localized. It's like, well, you can tell your local government. This is this idea of now Paramatma, right? So we have this all pervading universe, manifestation of Krishna, this divinity. But then we have a super soul, right? Paramatma, which is the fancy Sanskrit terminology for super soul. And that just means that there's a Krishna residing in your heart, right there alongside your soul, with you forever and ever. Now we get localized government. But then when you get the in and you get the personal email of the president, you start to feel like, okay, I'm getting somewhere. I know some people. And so then when somebody says, if you have a problem, you're like, no, if I have a problem, I know who I can contact. You know. And most of the time, you don't even tell anybody. You've got like this non-disclosure agreement. And you don't tell anybody and you keep it a secret. But if you have a problem, you know exactly who to write to, what they look like, what they act like, and how they're going to reciprocate. You know what their limits are and how they can reciprocate. This is what it is when we get to know Krishna. We've bypassed this universal manifestation, which is still there. We've even bypassed the local administration, right? This localized. But now we know there's a Krishna that can manifest things. And of course, this Krishna knows everything that's happening in my life because right there in my heart. But now I can have interactions with this Krishna. And of course, we were having these interactions before, but I wasn't so conscious of them. And the more conscious I get, the more I understand that this Krishna knows me. He knows me for lifetimes, knows me better than I know myself. But then I also know how I can reciprocate with Krishna. And this is why we do what we do. This is why we gather together on a Sunday morning, afternoon, evening, depending upon where you are in the world. And we come together to try and uplift one another and have realizations about these concepts. We have these talks about spirituality that can kind of only happen here. We have these spiritual conversations that we can only have with each other. Sachi Nandan Swami has also said that it is so important that devotees, which, like I said, if you're here, that's it, you're counted as a devotee now. Devotees should gather together often and have conversations that they can only have with each other, that can only be had with like-minded souls, people who have like-minded hearts, people who are kindred spirits, because they'll really understand. Otherwise, you get someone else and they're like, yeah, no, you're really awesome, you're really cool. I don't get the whole God obsession thing. Like, what's up with you? But when you get the company of those people who really understand what's up with your God obsession and this idea of charging forward after this spiritual path, you feel it. There's a difference and you feel so recharged. So that's why we're here. That's why we gather together. It was a real big intro on the intro. But I do feel like there's one little section of the intro that I feel like is really imperative to bring in on this topic. And the reason I kind of wanted to talk about it is because I also wanted this podcast to be a place, like I said, where we speak about the things in Bhakti where it's like, what's that all about? I don't get it. What's this idea? So while it is great to read through, sometimes some things need a bit more reflection. Like we need a little bit more like, let's talk about this more. And because this podcast is ongoing, I feel like there's no rush. And that is the best feeling in the world, especially for an earth sign like me. not having to be rushed through things is one of my favorite things. So this is like a great meal for me, and not having to rush through that meal. It's like, no, we're on this journey together. However long it takes, we're going to encounter the things. And I'm sure that whatever we read will be applicable, because that is how this divine literature works. Okay, so now let's get into it. We're in a section of the intro. I'd like to tell you where it is or what page, but that's kind of vague on all of these digital devices. But we're in kind of like the middle of the intro. And we've been talking about so many of the things that Krishna is. And this episode is like, who are these Krishna stories meant for? So now let's actually examine who Srila Prabhupada says these stories within Krishna book will be meant for. Krishna, and he's speaking about this book now, will be appealing to the liberated souls and to persons who are trying to be liberated, as well as to the gross conditioned materialists. And, gross doesn't mean like, ugh. In this context, gross means like grossly conditioned, like this energy is very heavy. And there are people who just don't have any time for spirituality in their life because they're chasing the things, literally the tangible things. So this is what is meant by the gross conditioned materialist. But also, the stories of Krishna are appealing to them too. According to the statement of Maharaj Parikshit, who heard about Krishna from Shukadev Goswami, Krishna Katha is equally applicable to every human being in whatever condition of life he or she or they are in. Everyone will appreciate it to the highest magnitude. But Maharaj Parikshit also warned that persons who are simply engaged in killing animals and in killing themselves may not be very much attracted to Krishna Katha. In other words, ordinary persons who are following the regulative moral principles of Scripture, no matter in what condition they are found, will certainly be attracted, but not persons who are killing themselves. The exact word used in the Srimad Bhagavatam is pashugna, which means killing animals or killing oneself. Persons who are not self-realized and who are not interested in spiritual realization are killing themselves. Because this human form of life is especially meant for self-realization, by neglecting this important part of his activities, one simply wastes his time like the animals. So he is pashugna. The other meaning of the word refers to those who are actually killing animals. This means persons who are animal eaters, and they are all engaged in killing animals in so many ways, such as hunting, opening slaughterhouses, etc. Such persons cannot be interested in Krishna Katha. Now, like, this is a really heavy, huge statement. We've got a lot going on here. We've got people killing other living entities, people killing themselves, all like it's a whole big thing. It's like, what are we saying? Are we saying that now the people who have eaten meat, or maybe you're a person who really loves Krishna and then simply has an issue with diet? What if you're one of those people who is still on the path and still saying like, oh, but my diet doesn't look like every vegetarian or vegan devotee diet out there, and now is Srila Prabhupada saying that this is not meant for me? No, it's actually meant for everyone. Like, he starts with, it's meant for everyone in whatever condition of life you find yourself in. The point is that we keep going. The point is that some inner yearning led you to this place. It led you to this interest. Keep that interest. Hold on to that interest, because that interest will be the thing that fuels your faith. And as it fuels your faith, that will start determining your actions. And I can't tell you which diet is best for you. I can't tell you how it makes you feel, how it changes you. I can't even tell you as a vegetarian. I can't even tell you like, oh, there's an Ayurvedic diet. And this Ayurvedic diet is like one size fits all. I've seen a lot of people and they encourage a raw food diet, my body does not work like that. If I had a raw food diet, I would die. Probably quite literally. I have a very, very airy like nature, and it needs like heavy foods to be able to like kind of squash all that and reground me. And if I just ate a raw diet, I would probably be a case of a person who died from gas. Like I would probably have a whole gastric attack and perish. At the very least, I don't think anybody would ever want to be around me ever again. It would be so offensive. So yeah, I can't say this is exactly what you need to do and this is exact, but what I can say is in whatever condition you find yourself, even if your path is not looking exactly like everybody else's, keep the interest. Stick around. Stay here and let's find our friend. Because now do we think, does our friend never converse with people who have eaten meat? What if I tell you that as we go through this book, we are going to find instances where Krishna himself goes on hunting expeditions? God is hunting. Krishna is going to have conversations with people and he's going to call them devotees, but they're not going to look like devotees. They're not going to look like spiritualists. They are not going to be the type of people who walk around with fancy crystals on their wrists, right? And all these like crazy malas and some outrageous like hippie name that they got somewhere at a retreat that may or may not have been silent. And then they come back and they're transformed and now they are a spiritual seeker. Krishna is going to have so many conversations with people who do not look like that. And he's going to tell them that they've perfected their lives. What I love about Srimad Bhagavatam and this Krishna book is a summary study of just the 10th canto. So just the 10th section. Now there are 9 sections before and still 2 sections after this. It's not the end of the story. Parikshit Maharaj, who is hearing this Srimad Bhagavatam, right? He's hearing this from another sage. This Parikshit Maharaj was a king in the family of Sri Krishna. And he gets cursed to die in 7 days. What was he doing when he got cursed to die in 7 days? Well, earlier that day, he had been hunting. He was hunting. So now we hear in this one line, these people who are hunters, animal slaughterers, all these things, they are not going to be very interested in Krishna Katha or stories about Krishna. But now we see all of these exceptions. How does that work? It's because everybody's an exception. Spirituality never just looks one way. Everybody's spiritual path is a little bit unique and a little bit nuanced and a little bit different because every single soul is different. And Krishna is still accepting the best parts of your spiritual journey and leaving the rest. Krishna is an expert master at picking out the best parts of you and your spiritual journey, the best parts of you and your offering, and then simply leaving the rest. Even if we are not intending to do some devotional service, even if we don't think of ourselves as spiritualists, even if our intention was not to worship the divine by chanting some names or something, Krishna still finds a way to accept that you've chanted, give the benefit, and then just simply leave the rest where it is. If only we could learn that kind of discretion and discrimination, our lives would be infinitely better if we were able to take what resonates and leave the rest. Krishna is a master at taking what resonates with him. He's like, okay, is there some love and affection here? Is there any devotion that I can find? His vision is so pinpointed and focused on finding the devotion, whether it's hidden or overt. And not just finding that devotion, but then rewarding us for it. So even if you think, I look like I'm struggling on this path, my life doesn't look like everybody else's. I'm in situations where I have to do things that it looks like other devotees might not agree with, all this. But are we taking the time to sit and have conversations with other devotees who can just understand us? Are we taking the time to find those gathering places where we feel seen and understood and where we feel like there's hope? Are we taking the time to have a prayerful conversation between us and our best friend? If you have answered yes to any of those questions, then you're a devotee. Then this spiritual path is for you. You don't even have to ask your doctor about it. Like, you can just keep going. Take it. Take the win. And I often feel like, and I get a lot of these, there's sometimes a person will come and they'll say, I was chanting 1 round every day. But then something happened and I had been a vegetarian and then I started eating meat again and then I stopped chanting. I'm like, well, why? Don't do that. Don't do that. What we hear about in those other 9 cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam, which are very important for this very reason, is we hear about hunters. And not just like hunting for a good reason, which we'll hear about later on, but cruel hunters who their aim was to leave the animals half dead and suffering. This is a real hunter. The aim was to make the animal suffer. It wasn't even like, oh, I need to hunt for my sustenance, because this is what I need to live. The aim was to cause suffering to this other living entity. Even that person finds salvation. This person receives a mantra and their life is turned around. So in whatever condition you are in, whatever your spiritual path looks like, these stories, this Krishna Katha, God's grace is meant for you. Whether you consider yourself smart or not so smart, whether you consider yourself fluent in whatever language or not so fluent, whether you consider yourself a spiritualist or not, these stories are absolutely meant for you. And I guarantee you'll find something interesting in there for your life. And the rest, you keep working on it day by day. Keep getting deeper. Keep finding those realizations with yourself, but also keep finding those realizations with Krishna. This is who this is meant for. And this is what this is meant for. These stories are meant to uplift us, to show us that God's grace can come in any capacity, in every single life. God is just waiting for the moment that we turn towards him. Her, both of them. Just waiting for that moment. Waiting with bated breath, actually. Can you imagine? The Supreme Person that we have all of this affection for, it sounds so incredibly wonderful. Like the whole universe seems like they want that person's attention. And it's true. And that Supreme Person is waiting with bated breath, holding their breath, just waiting for the moment. Is my person turning towards me? Oh, no, they're watching TV again. Never mind. My person is... No, that's Netflix. Never mind. How many times have we let down our person? That's heavy for us, isn't it? Thinking about the fact that our friend I just wanted to talk to you. Well, yeah, you're busy. Okay. Come back later. And our friend comes back later. Are you ready now? No, still busy? Okay. Do you want help now? No, you're still handling it? Okay. How about now? No? Still okay. But our friend never stops trying. So if you have come across this live stream, or if you are in this podcast, and if you are in our Zoom room, which you can follow along in our Zoom room by becoming part of our patron membership. And you can join on Patreon. So we'll put a link in there for you. But if you are in the Zoom room, or if you have somehow found or stumbled upon this video, this is not an accident or just a coincidence. Please know that our supreme friend is trying to get your attention. Your attention. Now you might be thinking, me? I'm not even a spiritual person. Yeah, but our divine person is still trying to get your attention. How wonderful would it be if we just turned and gave our attention back? Just 5 minutes. Just a little bit. So if you have come across chanting, you've come on any of these things, please know that this is meant for you. Never stop hearing. Never stop chanting. Never stop seeking out those people that enrich your soul and remind you of this everlasting relationship that nobody can break and that can only get sweeter. It can only get sweeter. So as good as you think it's been, if you've been on this path and you've been like, no, this path, man, it can only get better. And we get to do it together. So now, as always, I like to open it up for a moment of transparency where we kind of get a takeaway and or a question or two. So let's see. Go for it. Let's see. Do I see anybody like typing furiously? No, nothing. No takeaways even. Well, actually, we do have some takeaways from YouTube. One of the takeaways was God's grace can come in any capacity. Yeah. That's big. It's so huge because now it's not simply about us looking at this is the way it has to happen. This is the way my blessings must occur. We have to let go of that idea and welcome in the adventure and the possibility that God's grace can show up in any capacity, which means that at any moment we have the option of finding God's grace. And that's what I've been asking myself recently. When times get rough and when my mind, that's when times get roughest for me, is when my mind goes on a binge and a spiral and it starts to tell me all the most negative things. And I'm trying to claw my way out. It's in those situations where I started asking myself, okay, where can I find Govinda's mercy in this situation? And not just where can I find Govinda's mercy in this situation, but how can I glorify Govinda in this situation? How can I use whatever is happening to me, through me? How can I use that as a moment of glorifying my best friend? How can I use it just to say, hey, look at God. Look at what my best friend did in this situation. And it's been changing my mindset. And it is an everyday battle. So it's not just that, hey, you know what? I've realized that yesterday. The test is done. I've got it all. It is a daily thing that we have to go through. Also, we have the comment that we can involve God in anything, everything. And we should. God should be an active participant in our lives because God already is. It's just that we are not conscious of it, nor are we giving that importance. So we can make those small, small changes by including Krishna in everything. Everything. Telling him of our struggles, telling him of our triumphs and our victories. God should be an active participant. That's how we make a best friend part of our lives. Like any other kind of relationship. So yeah, this idea of somebody causing spiritual harm to themselves, right? And that's what Srila Prabhupada is speaking about when he says people killing themselves or killing other living entities. this idea is that if we are so focused on just the material things, even if we get our prayers answered, there's such an emptiness that will eat at us, and we see it with the amounts of celebrities that we've seen over the years, that it's come to light. It's like, this celebrity has passed away, this celebrity has passed away, this celebrity has passed away, and somehow self-inflicted. When we start distancing ourselves from ourself, from that spiritual need, or when we feel that our spiritual needs are unheard, right? Sometimes you feel like it wasn't just on me. Sometimes you're looking for a spiritual community and you're looking for connection. You're yearning for this connection with others. And every time you're met with this roadblock. Nope, you don't fit in. You don't fit the description. You're not welcome. That is so difficult to handle. That lack of connection and that yearning for it in so many different places, and continuing to feel that lack of connection, can be detrimental to our health, spiritually, physically, emotionally, materially. And so Srila Prabhupada is saying that this Krishna Katha, these pastimes about Krishna, these stories, give us that connection that we're yearning for. Even if we think it's money, it's not. We're yearning for connection. And we can get divine connection through these pastimes with Sri Krishna. That was a confirmation. Look at that. We're all yearning for it. So you should never feel like you are alone, because the person next to you, the person on the other side of the computer screen, is probably hoping, praying, wishing for the very same things that you are. The words we use might be different, but those underlying desires are the same. So let's see. We got some more takeaways from our Zoom room, from our live audience. Lileshwari is saying, many takeaways. One big one for me is that every day can be a celebration. Every day we have a new opportunity to find and receive Krishna's love and mercy, and that is not something ordinary. No, it is not. We'll start to see when this story picks up that they need God in their lives. Like, this is a story of people who need God in their lives. We need help. We need divine help. And when they go to see God, it's like they have to go to a special place to see God, because God is not even in all the different realms that he'd normally be in. And what we get is the unabridged, like we get the unabridged, unfiltered, concentrated potency of God in Krishna. We get manifestations of God in other forms that have some of the charm and the love and the absolute energy of Krishna. But Krishna is, to use regular language, Krishna is something else, man. He's something else. He's built different. Um, and so that this descent of Krishna into our lives is not ordinary. If in any way Krishna and his mercy has descended into your life, that is not ordinary. Your life is extraordinary. It's now been made completely miraculous. So yeah, I do love that. That's what I even want to take away from your takeaway. Is that I don't want to look at those as just like an ordinary thing. Oh yeah, I got a Krishna, fine. Like I wanna like understand, like, wait a second. There are people who have prayed for this, and now I'm just conscious of this in my life. What a miracle. It'll give me so much less to complain about. We also have love is our currency, and we can afford to be generous. Yeah. My mom still tells me that. I'm still learning it, still on the pathway. So even if you think, wow, she's got it all figured out. No, I know how to sound like I've got it all figured out. But really, we're kind of navigating this terrain together, I promise. And we got another takeaway from Pasha. I'm taking away that we're never alone. Krishna's there and all of the ups and downs and in-betweens. Yeah. The interesting thing about Krishna is, as much as we love Krishna, he loves those in-between moments. The ups and the downs. He really, really likes the downs. Because I think, he's found a niche. Like, what they always say, you have to find your target audience. What he knows is that his target audience is people who have been frustrated by their material life and desires. So he's like, that's my target audience. I'm going to go find those people. And then if those people are not there, he's going to go create situations for his target audience. Because he knows that's when the people start turning around. They start paying attention. They start needing me in their lives when everything has hit the fan. Let's try it. Let's make everything hit the fan. So Krishna is quite adventurous, and he will be adventurous in our lives. So now that he's descended into your life, kind of like watch out. But also, he makes the ups so much better. And he makes the downs so much more manageable. What makes the downs harder is us fighting grace. Right? You ever feel that? Like, if we didn't fight it so hard, that downward moment could have swung a different way. But my mind gets involved. But then my mind tells me, no, we're going to handle it. We got this. We can do this all on our own. And Krishna's constantly like, I put you in this situation so that you finally understand that there's another way. You don't have to do this all yourself, nor are you very good at it. Right? This whole life is an exploration of Krishna telling me, maybe you should stay in your lane and then know when to reach out and ask me for help in my lane. But meanwhile, I'm always like, I can create and maintain and deal with this entire universe in my life. And God's like, this, stay in your lane. Your lane is to ask for help. And I'm always like, no, I got this. And he's like, just ask for help. No, I got this. I homeschool an 11-year-old. She's now 11. She's not 10 anymore. I was going to say 10, but she's recently turned 11. And the biggest thing I wind up telling her is pay attention to the details and just ask for help. The problem is she doesn't know what she doesn't know. So one day she wrote an assignment and she spelled injustice. She spelled it INJUSTISS. Injustice. Because for her, sounding it out, that's what we've taught her. You sound it out, you go on. And so she thought she was perfectly right. And when I read it over, I said, did you check this? And she said, yeah. And I said, so you checked it. You spelled injustice here. Do you know how to spell justice? And she looked at me and she said, so no from your reaction? And I wanted to be mad. I wanted to be frustrated. I wanted to but all I could do was laugh for 5 minutes because it was so true. But how many times am I doing this with Krishna? I've got the situation all planned out. And then material nature comes in and Krishna's like, did you even know which way to go? I'm like, so then no, by your reaction, I didn't go the right way. We don't know what we don't know. We're sitting there thinking, I've got it all handled. I know this. Double checked it and everything. Krishna's like, if you would have just asked for help. So I'm getting myself into the habit of knowing I have to start the day asking for help. I'm going to go on the knowledge and the assumption that I know nothing. Not that, I got this handled and figured out. I got this part. Nope. I know nothing. I'm going to start this day with asking my supreme divine person, guide me, use me, speak through me, act through me, do the things. I'm a puppet. Just guide me. Because I don't even know which step to take next. I'm starting to understand this thing now. After however many years and decades of doing this the other way, I'm starting to make an about face. And now, okay, I can try things differently. I don't have to do this trial and error thing where I'm like, let me just try it. And then it never works out. Then I'm like, maybe I should have asked for help. Maybe the key is just to ask for help first. So yeah, Krishna is there for the ups and the downs, whether they are created by him or by material nature, and all of the in-betweens. And a lot of those downs would be handled so much sooner if we just stopped fighting. And if we started turning to our friend more and more. We're going to hear about friends that Krishna has. And they are friends that get banished to a forest for 12 years. And while they're in this forest for 12 years, they go through lots of hardships. They were royalty. So imagine royalty and then really going into a forest lifestyle. Nothing. No soft beds, no silks, no nothing. Wearing like tree bark and stuff. And, you know, when I was growing up, I'd hear a lot about this whole tree bark situation. Like, I'm like, how does anybody actually wear tree bark? What does that look like? And I thought that this was a far off like concept until people started making clothes out of bamboo fiber. Okay? So nothing is new. Okay, all these things that people find, it's like, I made a shirt for you out of bamboo fiber. Yep. They were doing that 5,000 years ago plus. So yeah, I mean, you know, it's totally feasible. It might not always be the most comfortable thing that you're wearing, but it is like, it makes you look earthy and chic and new age. Okay? So like, okay, right? But they get banished to the forest, and their life is kind of one of these. And they often say, they're like, if anybody were to just hear about our lives, they'd never worship Krishna. They think that's how Krishna treats their best friend. Like their family with Krishna. Like, that's how Krishna treats their family? Why would I worship a person who does that to their family? But what they say is, but the miracles and the blessings that come are so far beyond any of the hardships that they've had to face. Now, this is them saying this about their lives. Spending 12 years in a forest. And they'd say, we'd take that over ruling a kingdom any day. Why? Because when we were in the forest, Krishna would visit us every day. Anytime we had an issue, we'd just think of him, and somehow he was there. Our forest wasn't even necessarily near his palace, but he would make the journey. Day or night, didn't matter. So they say we'd take the forest over the palace any day because we had Krishna, where we could see him, where we could hug him. So this is our life. This is our lives. When we have the ups and downs, we can think about it and think, whether they were positive moments or negative moments, where were the moments where I had Krishna? Where were the moments where I was calling out, reaching out for Krishna? Those are actually the mark of positive moments in our lives, even if they look like we were distressed. It's a positive moment because we have Krishna right where we want him, right there with us, beside us. We can feel him. Sometimes in the happier times, we start to forget. We get a little bit of amnesia. I'm trying to use those quote unquote negative moments as a spiritual catalyst so that I can remember in the positive times that, wait, where's Krishna? So yeah, that's it for us. We can wrap up now. Best thing to remember until next week where we see each other again is these moments of clarity, these moments of authenticity and transparency come when we start looking at every moment in our life thinking, where's Krishna? How can I find Krishna in this moment? No matter what you're going through, I guarantee you, if you ask that question, you'll be able to find Krishna. If you can't, come back next week, let me know. We'll talk about it. Until then, I'll see you all again soon. Thank you so much for being here. Everybody waking up at different time zones. Thank you. So much appreciated. Come back next week and we'll see through more things together. Till then, Jai Jai Radhe Govinda. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.